Okay, let's get into it. This is the core sealed 4-drops tier list. We're going to rank these cards based on how good they are in sealed mode in Gods Unchained. And it is all the 4-drops from the core set. I made the cards a little bigger. I forget if I usually do this. Also trying to just get the positioning right here. So I don't know. Hopefully the size will be okay. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, let's just jump right in and let's do the 4-drop tier list. Let's go. So the first card here, Runecaster of Aros. It's a war card. Roar, obliterate any non-Viking cards in your hand. Draw 2 cards, and it's a 3/3. So 3/3 for 4 is a bad stat line. You usually don't want to obliterate all of the non-Viking cards in your hand. Drawing 2 cards does not make up for that. This is a bad card. I guess that's like an F right off the bat. That's basically an F right away. I feel like I might have made these cards too big. I hope not. Next up, Pyrrhic Adolescent. It's a 5/4 dragon. Creatures damaged by this creature get burn +1. So at 4 drops, a 5/4 is okay. It's not amazing. I feel like once you get to 4, the stat line isn't... I mean, a 4 or 5 is still okay. I forget what that card's called. Vanilla 4/5. But overall, I feel like you need a good effect at this point. You need something more than just stats, unless it was ridiculously overstated or whatever, because now you're paying 4. There's a lot of ways that a cheaper card could answer it. You know, you can get at a disadvantage pretty bad if you're just playing some stats. The card really needs that immediate impact. This doesn't have immediate impact. It's not terrible, but I feel like it's basically a C. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Bro, these cards are too big. Should I pull an audible and just like... Hold on. Can I just like make them a little smaller? I don't remember how big I usually make them. Can I just quickly... Wait. Resize all of these real quick. Let me just see if this works. Transform, scale. Yeah, can we just... Even just a little, just squeeze them down a little bit. Did that even work? I'm not sure. Let's keep going. All right. Next up, we have Pharaoh's Guard. It's a 4/2 Anubian with the Afterlife. Summon a 2/1 Skeletal Guard. If you add up the stats together, it adds up to 6/3 of stats for 4, which isn't really that good. A creature with an Afterlife to summon another creature is a decent type of creature. Like, they're sticky. They tend to get a lot of value. They're a good way to play around AoE removal spells that hit your whole board, because then at least the Afterlife comes back. But it's kind of weak. I feel like it's another C. It's playable, but I'm not rushing to play it by any means. Next up, Patience Priestess. This is a good one. A 2/4 Mystic. After you summon a friendly creature, give it +1 health and frontline. You have to play this and then play other stuff, so you usually want at least 5 energy, so you can play this followed by a 1-drop. Furthermore, you want a board state that lets this stay on the board for multiple turns, so you can really get that extra health and frontline effect. There's a decent amount of games where if you play the Priestess, they won't have a spell, they won't have a way to answer it, and so they're gonna get stuck. Like, the Priestess just makes it so they can't really control the board very well, and it can really be good, especially if you have something else on the board that you are protecting. I mean, I might give it an A. I don't know. Yeah, I definitely made these cards too big. That's okay, though, because the text doesn't need to be visible. Only the image needs to be visible, so maybe the cards being big... whatever. It's going to be a meme for this video, because I don't think I can fix it. We're already live. We're already going. I don't want to go back. Next up, the Rhino. All of a sudden, I need the hydration. It's a 5/5 wild confused. Pretty simple, just an overstated creature, but it is confused. The overstated thing, the 5/5, is really strong. So, I mean, it could be a B. Oh my god, these are just... I'm just going to get the name and the art there. I fucked up, guys. I fucked up by making the cards bigger. I'm sorry, but we just got to live with it. The B's are just going to get smushed, and the D's are going to get smushed. That's how it's going to be. Blue says... Runecaster of Aros only works with the relic that buffs Vikings. I forget which one that is. Lazy says I played Runecaster a few times when I didn't draw cards. True, if your hand is empty, Runecaster could be good. I guess that's fair. If your hand is empty, it's 3/3, draw 2 cards. And that's like okay, but that's a conditional okay thing. I mean, it's better than nothing, you know? It's pretty good, I guess, in the moment. I mean, listen, put it up to D. Give it a D, because that is fair. Give it a D. Oh man, this is amateur hour with how big these cards are. Be cringing about this the whole time. After a card is played, this is a 3/5 Mystic, Odessa Knight Arbiter. After a card is played, its owner expends 2 mana. This one's kind of neutral to me in sealed mode. Like, it impacts both players the same. So I guess if you know your hand or your deck has a lot of mid-range cards, like 4 drops and 5 drops, 6 drops, where you're going to spend your whole turn on one card, then this would fit in. But it's also just as likely to get in your way, right? Like, I mean, as light, you're going to be able to use your GP a lot and get good value, but this just feels as likely to work against you as with you. It feels very arbitrary. I mean, at the end of the day, you play it, and it's your opponent who immediately has to deal with it the next turn, and they might just kill it. So I guess it's a C. I don't know. 3/5 for 4 isn't like that good. I'm really on the fence about this. Like, I guess I'd give it a C, but it just seems not good. I might just give it a D. It seems like, is it actually helpful, or is it just random as fuck? You know what I mean? It feels kind of random as fuck. Nether Warp, transform a creature into a 3/3 Nether Beast. I mean, technically it's hard removal. It turns anything into a 3/3. I mean, that's not great, though, because then they still have a 3/3. So it's like one of the weakest single target removals. Technically, you could also buff something of yours that's less than 3/3 and bring it up to 3/3. But that's truly not worth 4 energy in most circumstances. I mean, this, I guess a D. It kind of feels like an F almost. But maybe a D. I don't know. I would never run this in a million years, really. Put it in the F category. Maybe I'll make the image a little bit taller to make up for the bigger cards. You can still see the bottom. I don't know. Next up, Mercenary. Oh, is that right? No, I skipped one. Next up, Nefarious Briar. It's a 3/4 wild, regen 1, roar, remove 4 durability from your opponent's relic. The thing about relic removal in sealed is that it's amazing when you get it, but it's not consistent enough. People don't have relics very often in sealed. They might have 1 in their deck, maybe 2. Then they have to draw the 1 if they only have 1, and it's like, then they have to play it, and then you have to have Nefarious Briar at that time. Otherwise, it's a 3/4 for 4, which isn't that good. I mean, with the relic removal, it does have something, and it's a wild. It has a tribal tag. I'm willing to give it a C- type of thing, and regen 1. So yeah, I mean, we can give it a C, but it's nothing amazing. Mercenary Troop, add 3 randomized warriors to your hand. This is just D tier. It's so slow. It's not much value. I wouldn't necessarily give it an F, but it's close in my mind, right? I mean, it just seems really bad. I've seen people play this once in a while. I mean, when they get it randomly, but I've also seen people actually include it in their decks, but I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid at all. Mercantile Marine, a 3/3 guild creature. The roar is deal 2 damage to an enemy creature. That's just strong, you know? 3/3 plus a 2 damage ping on a creature is just a strong combo. That's plenty to be worth it. The little removal spell, like a 1 energy removal spell plus a 3/3 creature, all for 1 card. That's pretty good. I'd give it a B. I mean, I don't know if I'd necessarily give it an A, but it's a strong B. It's a strong B, you know? Strong B. I'm gonna have to fix, I can fix the sizing after the video. So when I post the image on Twitter, it'll be fixed. That's what I'll do. Because it's like fine for the stream. We're talking them through. But the image is so scuffed at the end. That's what I'll do. I've been like kind of thinking in the back of my head. I'll fix the images in post so we don't have to waste time on it right now. Lokian Disciple, 4/4, hidden. Creatures damaged by this creature gains sleep. It's a good card because it's a hidden 4/4 and it's a guild, which is cool. But yeah, hidden 4/4 is good. The other effect rarely matters. Like, usually this either kills the other thing or it dies when it attacks it. I guess if it dies when it attacks, it can still be useful. Like, if you make a bigger creature go to sleep, it kind of works like a sleep dart. The burn 3, put the creature to sleep card. But yeah, that effect doesn't happen too often, but still, 4/4 for 4 hidden is just solid enough, plus all the other stuff. I think it's a strong B, if not an A. I'd give it a strong B. I know I'm being kind of harsh so far. I'm sure there'll be some more A's soon. Lightbringer Priest, 4/4 Mystic. At the end of each turn, your weakest damage creature is healed for 1. And that's each turn, not your turns. That's pretty cool. You know, it's pretty good. It's just like meat and potatoes, reasonably good. Another B, probably. You're never unhappy. Although, there might be times where you'd even leave it out if you have too many 4-drops. At least in a good pool, this might not always make it. But it's like a B-. It's relatively strong. In some situations, it's amazing. Other times it might just die right away and not get value. They can't really ignore it, though. Yeah, it's a B. It's a B. Inconspicuous Carriage. This is a classic 3/5 structure. Frontline. Afterlife. Excuse me. Sorry. Afterlife, add a bomb to your opponent's deck for each of their unused mana gems. Bombs deal 3 damage to their god when drawn. The cool thing is it does not say that it can't attack, so even though it's a structure, it can still attack. Most people will avoid the bombs, but if someone is forced to float mana because of an awkward hand, they might even get bombs in their deck. This is an A. It's an auto-include. The 3/5 frontline for 4 is immediately pretty good. The effect is reasonable. It has a tribe tag. You ever get a synergy with Automabun, you're feeling good. Or Giramonte, maybe. Like someone was doing to me today in Seal. That was crazy. Next up, Infestation. Fill your board at 1/1 Implings. Your god takes 3 damage. It's good. You just always have to hope they don't have any AoE, right? Even just a Tracking Bolt or an Auric Rush or Lakaios Adherent, an Auric Mage. There's a million things that can get you. Anything that does 1 damage AoE. Which makes it a little bit iffy. I mean, is it a B? Is it a C? When it works, you're feeling pretty good with 6/6 of stats for 4. But it is definitely, and you need like an empty board, otherwise you're getting less value. I would honestly put it in C. I feel like this card's a little bit overrated, even though people are always pushing me to play it, and I do run it a decent amount of the time. I'll give it a C though. Imperious Smite, destroy the strongest creature. Situational. You can't really target it, so it needs to be the right situation to get value. Still, it's really good removal. Solid B. I wouldn't really give it an A. There's better removal, but this is a good one. Usually going to run Imperious Smite, unless I have too many other removal spells. Holy Enchanter. 2/4 Mystic. Roar, give +2 health to each other friendly creature. The thing is, you already need to have a lot of creatures on the board. You have to get at least, I mean, you need a minimum of 1 target for this to be even slightly okay when you play it, right? And if you get 2, then it starts to feel pretty good. So it's not that hard to get value. This is not as exciting as the Patience Priestess. It's, I don't know, B-, C+, C. My gut says it's really just a C. Like, yes, it's going to feel great if you get it on a full board, but that's not going to happen very often. And if that is happening, it's oftentimes a winning more scenario. It is good to get ahead of AoE, though, if you play the Enchanter on a full board and now their AoE won't remove your board. I mean, that can be really good, but that's definitely quite situational, you know? Island Defender, 5/3 Viking, Roar, summon a 1/1 Huskarl with Frontline. It's a cool card because it, first off, gives you 6/4 of stats for 4, which is okay. But the cool thing is the 1/1 Frontline protecting the Glass Cannon 5/3. You have that little mini protector just to keep you safe on the board. It's not amazing, but it is reasonably cool. Is it a B? Is it a C? I'm inclined to say it's a B. I mean, if you're slightly ahead, this is great. I don't know. It's a B- if it's a B, though. It's definitely like a B- type of thing. Is it really better than Briar? Yeah, I mean, getting 2 creatures for 1 card is pretty good. We'll give it a light B. Helios Guardian. It's a 2/6 frontline. Afterlife, give +2 health to your weakest creature. I like this a lot more than the Holy Enchanter. For one thing, it's got a better base stat line of 2/6, and most importantly, frontline. So yes, it's only going to give a 1 creature plus 2 health, and yes, it's going to take more time compared to the Roar, the Enchanter, but it's frontline, and then they have to kill it, and once it dies, it gets a buff on something else. So it's just more direct. It reduces the opponent's options. It gets in their face a lot faster. I'm a I'm a fan of the Helios Guardian. I'll put it in B, a B minus type of thing, you know. Flame of Second Shattering, deal 4 damage. If you have 9 mana unlocked, deal 7 instead. Classic burn. It's a little worse than Worm Breath. Unless you get to 9 mana, then it's better. I mean, is it an A, even though it's worse than Worm Breath? Yeah, Worm Breath is probably S tier. And then Flame can be A, even though it's got upside at 9 mana. I mean, ideally, you don't want to go to 9 mana, right? You want to win faster. Okay, Firewine. Give +2 strength and overkill to each friendly creature till the end of turn. I don't know, it's great in theory, but I feel like it just never gets value for me. Anytime I run this card, I end up drawing it in situations where I'm behind, or I don't have creatures, or I have like a 1 creature. Overkill isn't effective, it's not good on the board, or I get unlucky. It just feels like it takes a good situation to get value from this. Until the end of turn is the real problem. Compare this to Overproof Brew, which is a 5-drop. It gives +2 and protected after it does 1 damage to everything. That card has so much more going on, and it's not temporary. Firewine, in comparison, I mean, yes, +2 overkill for the whole board till end of turn is amazing in certain spots, but it feels a little situational, a little bit win more. Whenever I play it, it falls flat. I'll give it a C. It's playable, but it's not that good, I think, in my opinion. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. Feral Shapeshifter, hidden for 1 turn. It's a 4/4 wild. Roar, deal 1 damage to an enemy creature. This is a constructed staple. Extremely good. I mean, probably S tier. It's so good. I mean, it gets played in aggro, constructed all the time. And yeah, it's extremely good for the same reasons in Sealed. Just gets it done, pings something, clears out a 1 health creature, hides for a turn so they can't immediately interact with it. That line 4/4 is pretty good considering all the other stuff. Just adds up to a solid creature. I think it's F tier. Famished Ghoul. After a friendly creature dies, you draw a card. 3/2 Nether. Again, I ran this a couple times, like once maybe, honestly, and I just didn't get any situations where it was playable. I just kept having it sit in my hand as a dead card while I had an empty board. Maybe I just had bad luck. I don't know. I feel like this is not the best draw card, though. If you just don't have friendly creatures on the board, it's dead as hell. But if you do, it lets you refill the hand really quickly. The problem is if you don't have if you don't have the ability to get draws from this card, it sucks. 3/2 for 4 is such a bad stat line. And for that reason, I feel like the downside is pretty bad, paying for a 3/2 and just not being able to get value from it. I'm going to give it a D. Maybe that's too harsh. Eldritch Demonologist, 3/3 Nether. Roar, pull the strongest Nether from your deck to your hand. So it's a 3/3 that cycles and gets you something strong from your deck. As long as you have at least like 1 or 2 good targets to draw with this Roar, then I think it's a fantastic card. The 3/3 is reasonable considering it's also doing a good spell on top of pulling your strongest other Nether to the hand from your deck. It's just situational, and if you actually have another thing or things that are worth getting, so you'll get value from it. I have not been disappointed with that, though. I'll put that back in B. Every neutral card used to run Demonologist when it was neutral to draw demos. Yeah, that's too strong as a neutral. That's definitely better as a death card. I didn't realize that used to be neutral only. Yeah, that's super sick. I mean, you usually get something. If you don't have any dragons, or sorry, if you don't have any nethers in your deck, then you won't run this, of course. But yeah. Dust to Dust, destroy each creature with a mana cost of 2 or 3. It never works. Whenever I run it, I never find a single spot where I can destroy more than 1 weak creature with this. Like 1 single creature that's not even threatening me in any way. My opponents will play it against me when my board is like 6 2-drops or something, and I'm like, wow, that was strong, but I never get value. F. Fuck Dust to Dust. Literally F. I'm offended by it. I'm putting it in the F tier. You can't stop me. My list, my rules. Devouring Blade. It's a 4 attack, 1 durability relic with Blitz. Afterlife, destroy a random creature. Infamous from the old Control War, Wallet War days. It's been toned down from when it used to have God Blitz. Still really strong. Very strong. I mean, yes, you won't always have optimal spots to play it, but like worst case, you just hold it in your hand or you play it and just don't swing right away. Worst case, it's the last 4 damage you need to go face at the end of the game if you play it a little bit earlier. I think it's got to be an A tier. I just really can't justify putting it any lower. I wouldn't quite give it S, but it's close. You missed the God Blitz. It was so broken with God Blitz, it's not even funny. I think it was a very good idea that they nerfed it. Relic War is coming back anyway. It's a budget deck now. It's good. Good for Relic War. I gotta start learning it. Next up, Bonded Unicorn. 3/4 Mystic. Roar, give protected and ward to another friendly Mystic. A very rare Mystic synergy. You're not going to see a lot of these in the game. Maybe one day we'll get a set that like gives Mystics their deck, you know? Mystics usually synergize with other things. It's a weird tribe. I mean, it's kind of just like a D tier 3/4 that is rarely, if ever, going to get the synergy. Although I will say protected and ward is a kind of a crazy buff. And I guess if you somehow had a bunch of Mystics, it could be good, but yeah, that just doesn't seem plausible. So I'm going to put it in D. But yeah, I mean, in the future, if Mystics are more common and that's more of a thing, I don't know. I mean, it's a kind of a crazy buff. Ward and protected together. Maybe in the future. Not now, though. Bladefly. You know it. You love it. 2/2 wild. Confused. Roar. Summon 2 more. I don't know. B tier. A tier. It's 6/6 for 4. It's wide. It's pretty good. I feel like it just hasn't been as good when I get it in my sealed decks as I expect it to. I expect it to feel like an A tier, S tier, and it's just not. It's not there. I'm going to put it in the B tier. A B minus, to be honest. I don't know. I feel like it should be better, but without being built in a deck that has synergies and wild synergies and buffs, like it just, I mean, maybe if you have Wildfire in the same deck, you can get there, but it just doesn't feel that good to me in sealed. B, but kind of a light B. Blacksmith of Tartes. All right, a 4/5 for 4. It's a good stat line. 4/5 is like the stat line. It's an Olympian, and the roar is if you have a relic equipped, this creature gains 1 strength, becoming a 5/5. I mean, if you get Olympian synergies or if you have 1 or 2 relics in your deck, it's pretty damn good. It's already a guaranteed B from the 4/5. I don't know. I'm inclined to give it an A. It's a 4/5 for 4 with upside. Granted, if you don't have any synergies, it won't quite be as AEE, but a 4/5 for 4, it's just good. It's really good. And we have another one right here. Belligerent Insomniac, 4/5 Olympian. After this creature goes to sleep, sleep is removed. They can't sleep it. It's not going to be relevant too often, but it could stop your opponent once in a while. Solid B. Solid B. Is this worse than the Blacksmith? I think Blacksmith gets value from its upside a little more often. B plus Insomniac, A minus Blacksmith, D minus Animon, Pestilent Imp Slow. It's a 2/2 Nether with a wacky effect. Once per turn, summon a 1/1 Impling after this creature attacks, or is pulled to another zone, or a friendly creature dies, or it's summoned. So when you play it, it gets a 1/1 right away. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just going to die. If it had ward, it'd be more interesting. It's just going to die so fast, though. If it had ward, maybe, because you're getting a 1/1 almost every turn. But... And there's, like, some synergy with when you sacrifice an Impling, you get another one. I don't know. It's kind of an F. I'll give it a D for being interesting, you know. But yeah, it just needs ward to be, like, a C minus, D plus. Until then, it's kind of like a D minus, F plus. Okay, Amplurial Sentient Shard, 4/2 Aether, Ward. Afterlife, add an Amplurial Shard beneath the 2nd card of your deck. Beneath the 2nd card, so it becomes the 3rd card in your deck. I mean, you don't really want to draw 4/2 Ward over and over necessarily. If your deck, like, the worse your deck is, the better this is. The better your deck is, the worse it is, because it's just getting in the way of you drawing your other cards. It's like a C minus kind of thing. I mean, I guess it's okay because 4/2 ward, because it has ward, it's reasonable, right? Without ward, it would be trash. But with ward, you see what I'm saying, Animon? Like the ward makes the difference on Amplurial Sentient Shard. Give it a C, but yeah, it's pretty iffy. Aether Snap. Summon 2/1/1 static Aether Bugs. Hold on. Aether Bugs. Wait. Okay. Aether Bugs are 1/1s that do damage, like 1 ping to a random enemy character every time you cast a spell, right? And so getting 2 of those is interesting. I've seen this played once or twice to good effect, but it seems pretty hard to pull off. If you're running Thievery with a Mage Deception combo, then this could be like a B. It's probably going to be a C in a lot of situations, at least until proven otherwise. I said Worm Breath would be an S tier earlier in the video. We're putting it there now. Worm Breath in the S tier. You can't stop me. I'm doing it. All right. Next up, Wrong Path. Pull an enemy creature to the top of your opponent's deck. Draw a card. This is insane, like, slowing down your opponent, card advantage. If you're already ahead, and then they play a large creature, like a high mana cost creature, 1 card takes up the whole turn, and then you Wrong Path it, it's so strong, and Ward doesn't even block it. I think it's a pretty easy A tier. I don't know if I'd quite put it S, because it's less good if you're behind, but it's still really good. It's an A+ for sure. I'm tempted to put Wrong Path in S tier, but I'm going to put it in A. I mean, is it as good as Worm Breath? It's close. Is it as good as Feral Shapeshifter? It's definitely close. Wildfire. Deal 1 damage to each enemy creature. Give +1/+1, regen +1 to each friendly wild creature. If you have a Badger's Nature deck with a bunch of wilds, you might run it. I find myself often not running this, but the 1 damage AoE by itself is somewhat reasonable. I just think you need to be running Badgers. It's like a C, but it's not a bad C. It's just a utilitarian C. You could still run it. It's just not amazing most of the time. Occasionally, maybe it is, you know? All right, next up, Wetlands Ogre, the 4/5 wild with no effect. That's a classic B. And I can already tell we're going to need a lot of extra room with the cards being bigger. Why did I make the cards bigger? Ay, ay, ay. I guess I should just do it now here. Let's take the image. Let's resize the canvas and make it wider. Wonderful. All right, Void Flash. Select a friendly creature and an enemy creature. Destroy both of them. It's good removal if you have tokens. Badgers, ideally, or maybe Acolytes. Or maybe if you just happen to play some other stuff that gives you a lot of cheap creatures. So it's situational, but it's good. I mean, I don't always run it. If I have better removal, I won't run it. But I run it a lot of the time. It's like a B- type of thing. What is this tier list? This is the 4-drop sealed tier list. 4 drops for sealed. Okay. Hang on, let me get more water. All right, Viking Longship. 3/4 Viking. Blitz flank. Roar give flank to each other friendly creature. It's good. I mean, 3/4 Blitz is pretty damn solid. The Roar is occasionally going to get you lethal around a front line or something sick like that. It's good. I don't know. It hasn't blown me away when I've run it, but it has to be like a B- or something. I have a hard time putting it below that because 3/4 Blitz is pretty legit. And flank is nice. I don't know. I kind of want to give it a C+, but I feel like that might be controversial. I kind of want to give it a C+. I mean, it's not as good as Warrior of Paradise in my opinion. Like that's better, even though it's 3/3. I'm gonna give it a C. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely good, but is it like a B? I don't know. I mean, it's better than Aether Snap. It's better than Shard. All right, I'll give it a B. I'll give it a B. I can't give it a C. It's a B minus though. Veteran Archer. So this card is kind of sick. 2/3 Guild. Deal 1 damage to 2 enemy creatures and give them hidden for a turn, so you can hide front lines and stuff. I mean, it's not that different from the flank thing, I guess. It's worse stats, but it's also got the double ping, which is by itself pretty good. And you can target the same creature twice. The only thing is it's a pretty low stat line, of course, and it won't always be useful, so it could just kind of sit in your hand. I guess it's another B. Oh, God, we're getting stuck in the B land. Now it's just like B after B. B after B after B after B. What's next? Veneer Lion. Oh, no. It's a 4/4 wild. Give +2 strength to a friendly creature. Pretty solid stat line. It's got the wild tag. The roar is useful oftentimes to get a favorable trade on the board or just to do more damage on face, and it's a permanent buff. It's not an A tier, certainly not a C tier. What's that? Oh, it's a nice B. Oh, no. About to have like a 10-mile long B list. How many more? I mean, not that many more cards, but we are going to have to go wider. It's all right. I'm going to have to fix this image after, in post. For sure. So right now we can just keep on adjusting on the fly. It's fine. Next up, Uncanny Rogue. 4/3 Guild. Roar, give deadly to a friendly creature. It's this one comes in handy a lot of the time. You need the right situation, but all you need is a 1/1 on the board, and you can kill something huge because deadly. And then a 4/3 for 4 is pretty good. As long as you get some value from it with the roar, even just like a 1/1 killing a 2/2 or something, whatever, get something from it, and it starts to feel pretty good. And if you get big value, it's great. Is it an A? I mean, it's pretty strong removal, but it does require synergy. Feels like a B. Am I crazy? Am I like stuck in some kind of mental loop and I don't realize it? It feels like a B. Okay, there we go. Traveling Bard, 3/3 Guild. It's a lot of guilds. I mean, you rarely can get the guild synergies to work in Sealed, I feel like. They're a little bit too all in. Like, you need to really commit to them. But yeah, Roar, give +2/+1 to a friendly creature. 3/3. It's good. You just already need something else on the board. So if you don't have it, it's not that good. And sometimes that'll be really helpful. Other times, not as much. If you consider all the stats together, it's 5/4 for 4, which isn't even that impressive. So it's like a bit of a situational 5/4 for 4, with one of those being rushed though, like being haste, being blitz. I don't know. It's like a C. It's like a C minus to me. It's just I feel like it could be a 3/4 at least. It'd be a lot more reasonable. But a 3/3 is kind of rough there. Town Guardian 2/4. Give +1/+2 to a friendly creature. That's 3/6 of stats. Kind of the same logic. I mean, I might like this more than the Bard because of the higher health, but it's still kind of C-ish. Those are both around the same strength to me. All right, Tomb Priest. 3/3 Anubian. Afterlife. Pull the strongest Anubian from your void to your hand. The problem with this is it has to be so late in the match because you need at least like a 4-drop, 5-drop Anubian to be dead in the void. So you play it, it gets killed, it actually goes to your void, doesn't get obliterated. Then you play this, and then this dies. This doesn't get stolen or obliterated. And then you get the other one back to your hand. Then you play it again for all that mana. Then you got good value, but that's a lot. That's a lot. So, and 3/3 for 4, to be fair, it's not the worst stat line, but it's, again, 3/4 would go a lot further. 3/3 is not nearly as good as 3/4. I think Tomb Priest is unfortunately a D tier. Sorry, bro, but that's just how it's going to be. Tomb Carver, nice meat and potatoes. 4/5 creature, Afterlife, heal your god for 3. I mean, a 4/5 is automatically a B, and the Afterlife here is just pure upside, guaranteed, unless you have full health, in which case you're doing okay anyway. I'm tempted to give Tomb Carver the A and just put it a step above all this wacky stuff. 4/5 is very good. Is it really better than Lightbringer Priest or Uncanny Rogue? I don't know. Maybe it's more of a B, to be honest. It's a strong B, though. It's such a strong B. Like right on the cusp of an A minus. Right on the cusp. I'll give it a B though. All right, Thievian Brawler 3-5 frontline. We had another 3-5 frontline with upside. That was the carriage. That was A tier. This doesn't have the bombs, but it's got an Olympian tag, which is better than structure. And the bombs rarely get value. I'm inclined to give, I don't know, can I give this an A? Like, if the carriage is an A, the bomb text rarely comes into play. It is there, but like, I don't know, isn't Brawler about as good? And carriage feels great. Like 3-5 frontline for 4 is quite impactful. It's one stat line off the 4-5. It's a guaranteed B to begin with, so it's at least a B. I'm actually feeling like this could be an A as well for the same reasons, but maybe that's stupid. I don't know. 3-5 frontline seems kind of cracked and sealed. At least a decent amount of the time, you're going to really like get in your opponent's way. The contested board where you're both wide, this will just get right in their way. I don't know. I feel a little sus. I'll put it there and be spicy, though, because just looking at here from first principles, Carriage got the A, and Brawler is so in the same ballpark. Frontline is really good. Only thing then is, like, does the Helios Guardian belong in A? And it's like, I don't think so, but that is a 2-6 frontline. So that's actually got the same exact thing going on. I don't know. Can I really put Brawler in B? Maybe I overrated the Carriage, if anything. Maybe I overrated the carriage. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, carriage is so good all the time because that front line is really powerful. The bombs just almost never play a factor unless someone makes a big mistake. We'll leave it in there and we'll see. We'll see if I change my mind on it later. I'll try leaving that in there. But I don't know if maybe Helios Guardian should be an A as well then. Maybe I'm just underestimating how good these front lines are. But maybe Helios Guardian should be in an A as well. All that frontline stuff. Because it really does if they can't answer it. Helios is vulnerable to more transforms, I guess, like Light's Levy, Extortionist. Anyway, the old ritual, destroy a creature. If you do, summon a 6/6 nether spawn for its controller. I mean, it's really cool when you use it and it gets value, but it is very situational. You need a small token on your side of the board or something absolutely devastating on their side. You don't really want to use it as removal. Technically, you can use it as removal to kill one of their creatures. You're gifting them a 6/6 in the process. I would honestly put it in a D tier. It's just like you have to set it up, and it's not really worth it for the 6/6. Maybe it deserves a C. I feel like it's just not worth it because the chance of it being in your hand not getting used is pretty high. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, if you're playing it with like tokens, you can definitely use it on one of your Badgers or Acolytes or any card that like has multiple spawns. I'll give it a C minus. I'll give it a C minus. I feel bad putting that in the here, underestimating it. Okay, Blood Axe. After it's a relic, 3 attack, 2 durability. After you attack and kill a creature with this relic, draw a card. Good if you get value from it, but very slow. Kind of like a C minus type of thing. I wouldn't really give it a D though, because the cycling is legit. If you have time to play it, it can be very good. But there's going to be some matches, quite a few matches, where you don't have time to play it. All right, Tamed Mammoth, 3/5 Viking. After a friendly creature takes damage, this creature gets +1 strength. It's a reasonably good creature. In sealed, it's very good because it's 3/1 to start. And depending when you play it, it might become a 3/1. Sorry, it's a 3/5 to start. And depending when you play it, it's a 4/5 or a 5/5 right away. Off to the races. I mean, it's like a solid B at least, I think, on stats. The upside is pretty sick. It does force them to answer it. I'd give it an A, honestly. It can't be ignored. Only thing is, on an empty board, it's not that good, right? But it's so good on a contested board or something. I don't know. The A might be pushing it. Am I giving out some soft A's towards the end of the judgment? Am I giving out some soft A's? I don't know. Let's stay with my gut, though. I should just let it roll. Basilisk. 4/4 wild. Remove sleep from friendly target creature. Remove 2 durability from opponent's relic. 2 things that both don't happen too often, but when you do get value from them, they can both be clutch. And then the 4/4 stat line is good. It's a solid B tier, B minus tier. You might not run it if you have like really insane creatures, like lots of them in your pool, but you'll usually run the Basilisk. You can play it for the stats most of the time. Occasionally, you'll get some extra upside, and it's going to feel awesome. Strix Hunter, 2/5, Twin Strike, Wild. It's good if you play it and it sticks and it gets to kill 2 creatures. That's a bit conditional. It's like a strong C. It's like a playable C. Not exciting, but you can certainly include it if your pool doesn't give you a bunch of stuff that's better. Nothing super exciting to me, though. Twin Strike's cool, but 2/5 is eh. Not as good as the Orcish Elite 3/5 Twin Strike Blitz, right? For 5. That's much better. Sound of Drums give +2 strength to each friendly Viking. You're not going to run Viking synergies like almost ever. And Sound of Drums doesn't even get played in Constructed when you could build around it, and people do run Vikings. It just doesn't get played anyway, so probably a pretty easy F, I think. Soothsayer, 2/3 Mystic, Roar, 4C3, draw a card. It's actually a pretty good value package. 4C3 followed by the immediate draw is kind of clutch. Late game, you can get something to play right away, or you just look for like a late game, like 7-drop, 8-drop, whatever you're looking for. Otherwise, it lets you stack the deck a little bit. Just a solid card. Of course, 2/3 is not doing much, but you know, it's getting you some value. It's not amazing. I mean, I think it's actually a playable C. It's one of those playable Cs. It's not that it's that good, but it's certainly playable. And when you're looking to fill out that deck in an iffy pool, or even like a medium pool, you might include it. Lastly, Solemn Lecturer, 4/3 Mystic. A lot of Mystics, a lot of tribal tags in general on these 4-drops. 4/3 Mystic. Roar, put an enemy to sleep. Very, very clutch. Just like you play this, you sleep one of their creatures, you destroy all of their hopes and dreams of trading into the board in the efficient way. They get stuck in an awkward position, and if they can't adjust, if their hand doesn't give them an answer, then you might be able to continue to play into that advantage. It's a subtle trick that doesn't do a huge thing, but it's quite good. The 4/3 stat line isn't crazy, so we'll give it a B plus kind of situation. I'd give it an A if it was a 4/4. 4/3 is a bit weak, though. And that does it. I mean, there weren't too many cards on this list, so maybe the bigger cards aren't too bad. My camera is covering up part of it now. Yeah, I'll do some post processing on this to try to make it a little more readable. That's pretty good, though. The B and the C lines go a bit long, but that's pretty good. Yeah, the 4-drops are a pretty even blend. You know, not too much terrible stuff. A few Fs. Nether Warp, Dust to Dust, Sound of Drums. Maybe I was harsh. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with those in the F tier. S tier, we got the Feral Shapeshifter and the Worm Breath. Nothing like super cracked. Like nothing that feels like, oh my god, S plus, insane S. But Worm Breath and Feral are both such auto-include meat and potatoes cards. They feel like they deserve it. Wrong Path was close. Devouring Blade was almost close, maybe on a different day. I don't know. That's more of an A. Definitely Wrong Path was close. But yeah, that's pretty much how I see it. Maybe I put Briar too low in the C. Maybe that's a B minus. Maybe Firewine's too high. Firewine might want to be a D tier. Definitely Helios Guardian probably should be an A. Probably should be an A. Maybe like Helios Guardian and Tamed Mammoth should swap, honestly. I would even, yeah, I could make that trade. I could make that trade. Tamed Mammoth. Gonna be like hidden in the back there, but yeah, Tamed Mammoth, and then grab the Helios and slide them over here. A little bit wacky with the arrangement there, but yeah. I think that's let's go. So last time I did this, I made the cards bigger because they seem so small, but then it ended up looking ridiculous. So I guess I don't want to make them bigger. I don't know why I thought I wanted to, but yeah, this is the tier list for the core set in Gods Unchained for the 5-drops. We're going to rank every 5-drop in the core set. These are all the cards you can get from your core booster packs as plain cards. You can forge them into meteorites, and then they're used for play to earn and all that stuff. So these are cards that are almost always in sealed. I don't know if they've never taken core out, and they probably won't. So basically, a good set to learn. Let's do it. Let's start. Let's just go. So, all right. 5, well, here. All right, let's go. First up, Zaxium Cryptic Panther. This is a 5/5 wild, and the roar says if any creatures in your hand have deadly, hidden, or ward, this creature gains those abilities. So I rarely have this activate. You might get a ward, you might get a hidden, occasionally a deadly. It's a little bit of a small list, right? It's not like a huge list of keywords like a Hector or something where it just says every keyword practically. It is a 5/5 for 5 though, and that is relatively good. I'd say 5/5 for 5 is the minimum stat line that's like a C plus B minus level. So I mean, it's like a strong C to a weak B. I don't know. Am I feeling generous? I'm feeling a little bit generous. We're going to put Zaxium in the B category, I think. And there's not that many 5 drops, so this won't be too hard. Compared to the early drops, like 1 through 4 was a lot of work. 5 seems a little easier. Okay, next up, Veteran Cataphract. This is a 3/3 Olympian. The roar is to give +3/+2 to a friendly creature. So if you add the stats up, it's basically 6/5 of stats for 5. So it's 1 better than the Zaxium stat line, but with the added Olympian tag rather than wild. And this, of course, is giving it to a different creature. The problem is on an empty board, this card is trash because it can't buff itself, and the buff is wasted if you play it on an empty board. So that becomes a 3/3 Olympian for 5, and that's trash. And that's the problem. The downside of this card is really low. If it works, though, that can be excellent because you're basically buffing one of your other creatures while also getting a 3/3. And the stats are good if you have it matter. It's just very situational. When it matters, if it gives you a good trade or it gives you enough face damage to kill him faster, you're going to be feeling happy. But the downside of having an empty board and just this card being kind of a dead card or even a dead draw when you're low on cards, like that's a pretty substantial downside. I'll give it a C. It's okay, but I'm not super excited about it. Bale Warden Minotaur. Hold on, let's get away. I'm gonna need to work on my Krita mouse skills or whatever. GM Hugo, welcome in. So next up we got Veil Warden Minotaur. This is a 4/5 wild. Afterlife, heal your god for 3, add a random 7 mana cost wild creature to your hand. This is one of the best 5 drops in the game, at least especially in the core set and in the budget sense, like anything that's not expensive. This is just a crazy card. The stat line is only 1 below what I would consider to be a reasonable like C plus stat line for a 5 drop, right? The 5/5 line is what you're looking for. So 4/5 is close. And with an effect with the healing and then the adding a card to your hand, I mean, that's just like, where do I even start? You get an extra card in your hand. It's a 7 mana wild creature. So in sealed, that's extremely helpful. There's a couple really good ones. I mean, I don't know. Oryx comes to mind. I forget, honestly, but there's a bunch of stuff there. So it's at least A. I'm just wondering, do I give it an S? And I honestly feel like the only reason it's maybe not an S is it's not immediate impact. It's definitely you play it and then it has to die. But in the meantime, it's a 4/5 creature. It can't be ignored. The only way this backfires if it gets transformed or somehow stolen, and that's rarely going to happen. I'm just going to go ahead and give Veil Warden an S. That's just such a good card. Like, it's already really good. Well, it used to be good in the old ranked meta. I guess not really these days. But these days, I feel like sealed is where Veil Warden gets to shine now. That's just everything you could ever ask for in a sealed card. The only downside is the lack of immediate impact, so it's a bit slow if you're already way behind. It's such a small thing, though. Yeah, I got to give it an X. Fix that card, make it a 3/5, and only give a friendly creature +4 strength. Wait, you talking about the Cataphract from back before I talked about Minotaur? Or what do you mean? All right, next up, Tainted Treant. This is a 2/4 wild. At the end of your turn, it's regen 1, and at the end of your turn, add a random nature card to your hand. I just feel like, I don't know. It's very high variance. If you get a bad card in your hand, it's not helping you very much. 2/4. The regen 1 is a nice little touch, but it's still a bad stat line for 5. If it dies quickly and the first card it gives you isn't helpful, it's a total waste of 5 mana, and that's a lot of mana to gamble with, especially if you're like in a close sealed match. If you're already ahead and this goes on the board and they can't kill it and it gives you multiple cards and your hand was kind of low on cards, so now you're refilling quickly, like sure, in theory, it could be a great card, but that's like you're already ahead anyway. You're just low on cards. I don't know. It's usually a win more card, or else it's just too much of a gamble. I would give it a D. I would really just never run Tainted Treant. Like, sure, if you got it like as a random card off of something else, it might be nice like, occasionally, but I'm not going to put it in a deck. All right, Swift Pox. Destroy an enemy creature with 6 health or less. It's not as good as Ray of Disintegration. It's not as good as some of the other easier or like more, I don't know, like removals that don't have this restriction are better. But 6 health or less is a pretty wide range, especially because you can damage a creature down to 6 and then it works. It's not based on max health, it's based on current health. So it's close to a full clear of just killing one creature for, 1 for 1. It's almost a Ray of Disintegration. Swift Pox is an easy C+, but I really feel like it belongs in the B. Even though, yes, it has a condition, it's still pretty much premium single target removal. It's good enough in my book to get a B. I don't know. I mean, you could argue, I don't know. Catch me on a crazier day. Maybe I'd argue for an A. Oops. Next up, Stormstress. So we're going to look at this. This is a 3/6 Mystic. Frontline, and the roar is to deal 1 damage to each enemy creature. The combination of frontline on a pretty good stat line and the AoE ping that only hits the enemy side, which is pretty rare in Gods Unchained. Most AoE is board wide, right? So this is really good, only hitting the enemy board. Kind of reminds me of Inferno, of like stuff that's just, you don't get to do only the opponent's board that often. It's one of the quirks of this game's card design. So Stormstress is excellent. And yeah, if they don't have a spell to deal with this, and if their board doesn't have the creatures to really handle this, you're going to wipe their board, or you'll just stun lock them and they can't get through Stormstress at all. Then you have a turn, maybe multiple turns, where you can play other stuff behind it, and you're really in control. It's a damn strong card. Guaranteed immediate impact. Great stat line with the front line. And you've got a tribal tag, although Mystic is pretty much useless. Maybe one day that'll be a factor. Still, I think Stormstress is an easy A. That's just a bread and butter auto-include type of card. It's so good. Next up, Slip Blade. Interesting card. 1 attack, 2 durability relic. It's deadly, flank, and God Blitz. So you can basically kill anything with this. You can even go face if you just need 1 or 2 damage to get them at the end. Like it's really a very versatile card. It's quite slow, but the God Blitz helps. Like you do get immediate impact. It's just 5 mana for a 2 durability relic. So it's like a little bit of an investment there. You don't usually play relics that cost more than like 2 or 3, with some exceptions at 4. 5 is pretty rare. Still, if your deck doesn't have enough good removal, Slip Blade is a solid option. It can brick. Sometimes you don't have time to play it. Sometimes you play it and it doesn't really have impact, but it is there, and it can clutch up and kill that one creature that you just didn't have an answer for otherwise. It is a great way to use your health as a resource to remove their creatures. And so I think it's pretty good. It's like a C+. I wouldn't give it a B. I can't really justify the B, because for 5, I don't know. I mean, is it really worse than Swift Pox? I got to think about this. This is 1 for 1. This is guaranteed at least 1 for 1, but you do have to attack. But it also gets around ward. Like, I feel like it's a C, but I'm not really able to justify that against Swift Pox. Yes, you have to take face damage. I mean, it's got flank, but you do need something else to attack first for flank to activate. So flank doesn't always get you around stuff. Like, it could still get blocked by a front line. I don't know. In my experience, Swift Pox feels good and Slip Blade feels bad, but maybe that's just an emotional reaction to like RNG. I feel like one of these, like Swift Pox has to go down, or Slip Blade has to go up. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments or in the chat or wherever you're watching this. I don't know. I'm gonna leave them there because that's where I feel like they should go. But my intellect is looking at that, and it looks like something might be awry. So interesting to catch that. Maybe I'm underrating Slip Blade. I think I might be underestimating Slip Blade. Might have just had like a bad run with it or something. Okay. Next up, you know what? Yeah, like I can't really justify this. Hold on. I'm gonna put Slip Blade in the B. I'm gonna put it in the B category. I think I'm just underestimating it. That's my hypothesis. I might have just had like one bad run and then miscalculated. Okay. Sand Scorpion, 2/5 Anubian, deadly. Interesting, deadly on a 5 health creature. You know, it's pretty good health. And then the roar is select an Anubian from your void and trigger its afterlife. You don't really run Anubian synergies in sealed. I don't think I've ever had a pool that really enabled that. 2/5 deadly is interesting stat line keyword combo, but for 5 with no immediate impact unless you get the Anubian synergy, this is just rarely going to be like the stat line and the keyword are not enough. I mean, this doesn't really get played in ranked, and I don't really think it's getting played in sealed either. It feels like a D, a D minus. I don't know, like a D. I mean, it could theoretically help you in some spots, but that's going to be inconsistent as hell and not really going to get you there. There's better ways to do whatever that card is trying to do. Next up, Rune Viper Tincture, 3 cards, draw 3 cards for 5. I mean, it never gets played. I don't play it. No one plays it. No one plays Cram and no one plays Rune Viper Tincture. Is that people just like not getting excited because the card's simple? Is it being underestimated because it just doesn't look fancy? I kind of want to run this during a run sometime and just see. I'm pretty sure it's C tier. Like drawing 3 sometimes is what you need. I've definitely had turns at 5 mana or above where I have no tempo. Like I only have removal spells. I can't play. Like it does happen. I'm guessing this has to be at least a C minus. I have a hard time imagining it's a D. I'm gonna pick it the next time I get offered it and see if I can play it. Like I feel like that might be not good, but at least a little underrated. Rune Viper Tincture. So we'll put that in C. You've never seen it before? Yeah, it doesn't get played. Okay, a classic. You see this in ranked all the time and in sealed. Red Fume Serum. It's a spell. Give +5/+5 and burn +1 to a friendly creature. So war is equivalent to canonize pretty much, with the burn +1 being a slight drawback. This stat buff is insane though. I mean, you're putting it on a creature, it's already in play, so assuming it was played at least one turn earlier, you have basically a 5/5 buff of God Blitz, right? Because it can already attack. That alone is very powerful. And then you might be able to get multiple trades, favorable board trades. Like, it's just kind of obvious. Like, a huge stat buff is strong. At 5 mana, this is a pretty good offer because the fact that it is basically 5/5 of God Blitz stats hitting the board. It's a solid B. I don't know if I'd give it an A. I mean, it could be close, honestly. It just feels like more of a B. When it pops off, it's great, but that burn +1 is a bit of a drawback. It'll take 1 damage the turn you use it from that, and then again the next. So, like, that's 2 damage pretty quickly, and then they're going to be using some stuff trying to kill. Like, it just kind of, that burn holds it back from being a broken spell that goes into the A or the S tier, and I think it balances it out pretty nicely as a B tier spell. What's up, Hutch? That's true. People use Mobilized and Sealed, and that's almost exactly the same as Rune Viper Tincture, because Mobilized draws 3 cards and ramps Empower spells, and a lot of times you won't have any Empower spells. So yeah, Rune Viper Tincture has to be at least somewhat playable. Okay. Ray of Disintegration, classic, classic, classic. It's a 5-cost spell. Destroy a creature, deal 2 damage to each god. You know it. You love it. It's just unconditional destroy. The only thing that stops it is ward. I give it an A because that is powerful. I feel like Ray of Disintegration is the gold standard of single target removal. And the damage will often help you, although it can hurt you as much as it helps you if you're behind on health. Then the damage to both gods will be a disadvantage. But it just feels like a classic A, just really good removal. And then Ratify, arguably even better than Disintegration, because it doesn't activate the afterlife of anything and it gets around all kinds of shenanigans. Like, this can really mess things up. Ratify, I'm actually going to give an S. I think this is stronger than Disintegration because transforming it into a 1/1 rat, 1/1 rat obliterates all the afterlife stuff and just, it's actually much more powerful. Ratify, this is probably the strongest single target removal in the game, along with the Light Seeks the Truth from Light's Verdict, which obliterates a target creature for light. Yeah, Ratify is nuts. Good single target removal. Okay, Raise Dead. Summon a creature from your void. The problem with this is how slow it is. You need to play a really good creature that's worth bringing back for 5 mana. You need to play that, and then it needs to die. It needs to go to the void. It can't somehow become soulless, get transformed, like with the Ratify we just talked about. And then after all that, you can raise it back. Granted, sure, if your deck is like early game defense leading into a ton of great creatures at 6 and 7, like, okay, maybe you do squeeze in a Raise Dead into that. If you're balling with an 8-drop or, God forbid, a 9-drop in your deck, maybe you tech in the Raise Dead, but you're making your deck extremely slow. That's rarely going to be the most efficient way, but it could be a fun way. I really don't think it's playable if you're optimizing for wins. So I'm going to give it a D, but it has definitely got some meme potential. Radiant Embalmer, 2/4 Mystic, Roar, pull a card from your Void to your hand. Pretty classic. You see this in Ranked all the time. It's great in Sealed because it's just a bunch of value and you get the creature. It's good in Sealed for the same reasons it's good in Ranked. It's just not as precise because you're not going to have a deck that's stacked with all of your synergy cards. You're going to have a random pile of sealed cards. But as long as you have good card quality, Embalmer is great. As long as you have cards you want to get back from the Void. I mean, I guess if your deck is trash, this might not help you because it's just going to be too slow and you don't want to spend 5 to replay another card later. As long as you have cards worth, spending 5 on a 2/4 to pull it back from the Void, like as long as your deck's good enough. Ironically, the worse the deck, the worse Embalmer becomes. I don't know if it's a C or a B. It's not that good in Sealed. I'd give it a C+. It's a solid card. I don't feel bad leaving it out if I have to, I guess. Though, all right, maybe it's a B-. The more I think about it, it's like I would rarely leave that out. Yeah, we'll give it a B-. It's a bit slow for Sealed. That's all. That's the catch. It's a bit slow. Porphyrion, Dread, Cyclops. Man, core 5-drops are fun. Like, these are a lot of iconic and interesting cards. I forgot how fun these 5-drops are. 5s are an interesting spot in the design, I guess. Okay. Porphyrion, Dread, Cyclops, 5/4 with a bunch of text. It's got Ward, and then at the end of your turn, increase the mana cost of your opponent's god power by 2 until your next turn. So as long as you have Porphyrion at the end of your turn, your opponent's god power costs 4 the next turn. And that's quite bad. That's quite bad because then they can't use it. Derp. Yep, I think you can put 2 and 2 together there. Put 2 and 2 together just like their god power cost. Anyway, this is pretty good because 5/4 Ward, I think Ward goes a long way for a creature like this where the health is a little bit understated. When your health is understated, the Ward just means you're not going to get one-shotted by a Star Shard Bolt, for example. It's still going to have a disadvantage in board trades and stuff, but yeah, the Ward helps to cover that, and the effect is good. With that said, it's not a great card, but it's a fun card. It's fun to deny your opponent's GP. That's a level of, like, control slash, like, denying resources that I think is pretty good in this game because it's not so oppressive, and it's fun to be able to tell your opponent no GP for you. So I think Porphyrion's a cool design in that regard. I'd just give it a C. It's playable in a pool that doesn't have great 5-drops, but if you have other options, Porphyrion doesn't have to be a priority at all. Now, this one does have to be a priority. Orcish Elite, 3/5, Blitz, Twin Strike. You see it in Ranked, you see it in Sealed. It's good for the exact same reason in both. It's just amazing tempo and value. It can 2-for-1 and kill 2 smaller creatures. It might even be able to 2-for-1 and still stay alive that turn, which means it can 3-for-1. Or it can just take out, like, certain stat lines. Like, if you have the opponent play Hungry Hippo, a 4/6, for example, the Orcish Elite can attack it twice, and they'll both trade into each other. So the Blitz Twin Strike 3/5 for 5 mana, it's just a great value package, and it gets that value immediately. This is a nice A. I mean, it's a really good one. It's a really good one. That's like a strong A. Next up, Ogre Archer. You know it from the Sanctum. It's made a nice reappearance in there. And it's a fun card. 3/3 Guild. Roar, deal 3 damage to an enemy creature. 3/3 and 3. Meat and potatoes. The stat line is pretty nice. 3/3 is reasonably good. Not quite as good as a 3/4 where it starts to really be juicy, but still solid. You're getting about a strong 2-drop of value in the stat line, maybe 2.5 drop. And then the deal 3 damage to an enemy creature is like one of the mage 2-drop removals. Like, it's basically like a 2.5 mana spell and a 2.5 mana creature added up into a 5 mana card. I'd give it a nice B. In some situations, it's amazing. Occasionally, it won't have enough of a good use, but, the worst case with this is your opponent's board is empty and it's just a vanilla 3/3, and then, at least at that point, your opponent's board is empty. Mana Thirst Golem, 5/5 Atlantean. After you cast a spell, this creature gains +1/+1. It's good because it's a 5/5 that quickly becomes a 6/6 and beyond. Your opponent can't ignore it. And if they don't have a good way to trade into it or remove it, then they might have a hard time. They might have to overspend on resources removing it, or they might not be able to remove it. Of course, if you can get to turn 6 mana or beyond, you can play this immediately followed by like a 1-drop spell or something. This also has good synergy with the Deception GP, since you can get more 1-mana spells. I think this is a strong B. Just a big stats Timmy card that works pretty well in Sealed. What's up, Pixel? Welcome in. Okay, next up, Jungle Princess, 3/5 Amazon, Frontline, and the Roars to summon 2 1/1 Hyenas. Those are probably Amazons, or maybe they're wilds. I'm not sure about the tribe on the tokens. It's 5/7 of stats for 5. It's pretty good. It's a bit vulnerable to AoE. Any AoE is going to kill your tokens, which is not ideal. I don't know. Is this a C or is this a B? Seems like a B. I feel like you just feel really bad when you run into a spell right away and they just kind of, deal with it. But it's one of those cards that is a single card, which asks a significant question of the opponent. Like, can you answer this? And if you're behind, the front line's going to give you a little extra room to maneuver. It's like a B-, I don't know. I'm giving a lot of Bs in the 5-drops. That's because a lot of these 5-drops are pretty damn good. Helios Battlesworn, 5/6 Aether, no text. Is 5/6 a B? Is 5/6 an A? It's not any immediate impact, but I do think in Sealed, just good stats are worth enough that I might give this an A. I might just give it an A. I mean, the tribal tag doesn't really matter. Aether is rarely gonna see synergies at this point in the game. Am I crazy for giving that an A? I feel like you can justify it. 5/6 is just a great stat line. I mean, it's just really nice. You're probably going to get a 2-for-1. Worst case is like some kind of AoE spell, and then they have a creature trade into it to finish. It's not easy to get rid of that. And if they 1-for-1 it with a removal spell, you're okay with that, because you might have other stuff that they're going to have a hard time with. I don't know. A- for sure. A- though on that one. Okay. Hardened Channeler. 4/3 Mystic. Afterlife, deal 1 damage to each enemy creature. So it's nice little AoE ping. It only hits the enemy side of the board, but it is an Afterlife, so they can plan for it. The stat line is pretty bad for 5. Like, 4 attack is good, but 3 health is really bad. If this was a 4/4, it'd be much more playable. At a 4/3, with the Afterlife being so telegraphed, I'd give it a D+, but it's a D. I mean, each 4/3 just is too bad. At 4/4, it would be different. At 4/4, it'd be like a C- to a C, but it's a D+, or maybe just a D. Just not quite there. Faith Breaker. This card got nerfed into the ground back in the day. It used to be stronger. I think it used to have much higher stats initially. But yeah, 1/1 Nether. After a god takes damage, this creature gains +1/+1. The fact that it starts as a 1/1 is just too much to overcome. It's unplayable. No one plays it. It's bad. I mean, okay, the only thing is any card that has ramping stats is a good threat in Sealed, because if they don't answer it right away, it does become a win condition. So for that reason, I'll give it the respect of going in the D tier. Like, it is potentially a win condition if it stays alive for a few turns, but it's such a win more. I'm sorry, Faithbreaker. I can't do it. F for Faithbreaker. F for Faithbreaker. I tried to convince myself to be nice. Exercise. Each of your opponent's creatures go to sleep. This is good in ranked decks where you need to stall them, like Sleep Deception, basically, where you need to stall them out and just buy yourself time to get to your late game, where you have combos and win conditions and like better defensive tools and stuff like Charm and all that crap. Your Demogorgons if you're balled in, your Ember Onis if you're not, or both, if you can. Your Hortuck, whatever. In Sealed, you don't have any of that, right? In Sealed, you're playing a pile of 30 cards and buying a turn by putting your opponent to sleep. It can help, but it's not packing the same level of punch that it does in ranked. That's a pretty easy D tier. I would probably never run that unless I was really desperate, like no spells in the pool or something. I don't know. Cursed Kaipora, 1/2 Deadly Frontline Protected. So even though it's a 1/2, As long as it doesn't get removed by a spell, this is very powerful. It's basically a guaranteed 2-for-1, where the deadly is going to kill two things because it has protected. They have to hit it twice. Thing is, it can get transformed or, worst case, stolen. If they have Bound by Her Will, they can steal a creature with 1 attack or less. They can steal this thing. You just spent 5 mana to give your opponent a Cursed Kaipora. So that's the biggest downside, but I think it's worth running. You're rarely going to run into stealing. That's an edge case. People don't even run Bound by Her Will very much because it's so inconsistent and sealed. And in a pinch, when you're falling behind on the board, this card can help you get back from behind. It can give your opponent no good option, especially if they have like one of those medium boards, like 2 or 3 creatures that are all pretty good stats, and then there's just no good way to answer this without losing 2 of them. So I think it's actually quite playable, even though I kind of laid out the worst case scenario right away. I would give it a B in spite of all that doom and gloom. It's actually solid removal, especially when you aren't given other options for removal. Like, this is great in a pinch. Call it a B minus, but I just don't feel like C is fair. Even though a C for Cursed Kaipora would make a lot of sense, it just doesn't feel fair. Okay, Crystal Rain, 4C2, deal 2 damage to each enemy creature. This is pretty good. Again, it's AoE that only hits the opponent's side of the board. The 4C2 is a nice touch. It's not as good as stuff that does more damage, but 2 AoE is reasonable. I mean, I think it's yet again a B. I don't feel like it's A. Like, A for me is Unbound Flames. A for me might be like a Tracking Bolt because of how good the value is. A for me might be Shape Blast because that 3 damage goes a lot further. Crystal Rain only hits the opponent's side, which is really nice, but ultimately the 2 damage AoE is a little bit limited. It will come up short sometimes. It's a strong B. There's an argument for an A there. There's an argument, because Shape Blast hits both sides. This only hits your opponent. There's a pretty good... You know what? I changed my mind. Give it an A. Crystal Rain's pretty fucking good. It only hits the opponent's side. It even gives you that nice 4C too. I changed my mind. Give it an A. All right, we're getting there. We're almost there now. Catapult, 2/5 structure backline. Ability, deal 3 damage. So once per turn, starting the turn after you play it, this can deal 3 damage to anything on the board. The backline is huge. They can't attack it unless it's the last thing on the board that's a valid target. If this sticks, it can win games. It demands to be removed. 5 health means it's out of range of most AoE. And there's obviously a bunch of ways they can kill it, but it's going to take some work. They're going to have to use some of their better resources. And a lot of times your opponent's not going to find an answer. I think Catapult's an A because it has potential to be the win condition. It's the thing that can turn the tides, giving you just a little too much value turn after turn. Considering how good the those smaller versions of this are, the 1 damage and the 2 damage version, the 3 damage version is just insane. That is an A for me. Carnage Sweep, deal 2 damage to each creature. If you have a relic equipped, deal damage equal to its strength instead. It's basically a less good Crystal Rain because it hits the whole board, not just your opponent's side. Still powerful removal. I mean, I'd give it a B minus probably. It's just a little bit tough how it hits your side as well, and it's only 2 damage for 5. It doesn't have the 4C bonus. The relic bonus is great. I feel like you're not going to get it very often in sealed, though. So, I'd give it a light B. Carnage Sweep is not my favorite AoE removal in sealed, but it's better than nothing for sure. Okay, Blackguard, 3/4 guild frontline. Roar, give +2/+2 to each other friendly creature with backline. Problem is, backline's pretty uncommon. You generally have 0 to 1 backline creatures, and ironically, the more backline you have, the less effective it is, because once you only have backline creatures left, it's as if they had no keyword at all. 3/4 frontline. The frontline's nice, but the 3/4 is not quite there. It's a strong stat line for a 2-drop, 3-drop. Well, not a 2-drop. It's a strong stat line for a 3-drop. So you could say it's giving you like 3 points of value. The front line is like 3.5 points of value, but you're just not going to get the roar often enough. You're just not. So honestly, I feel like this card is a little bit better than people give it credit for. I'd give it a C minus. I don't know. I guess it's a D. It's a D plus. It's bad, but it's not that bad. I feel like it's just not playable enough, but it's not that bad. Okay. Battle Cleric is amazing. Backline, Ward, at the end of your turn, summon a 2/2 Acolyte. This generates a ton of value, and the combination of Backline and Ward means that as long as you can get at least one or two other creatures on the board, plus it's going to summon an Acolyte the same turn you play it, like, this is hard to kill. They need a lot of stuff ready to go. Otherwise, Battle Cleric is very sticky. I actually give Cleric an S. This is one of my favorite cards in Sealed. It's a win condition all by itself. If they can't answer it in one or two turns, the value that this thing starts to generate is amazing. And it's just so good. It's so good. It's like Madame Denholm, but even better. You know, it's so good. The Ward is what makes it amazing. Just so hard to remove. Atlant Phalanx, 5/4 Atlantean, frontline. 4 health on a 5-drop is just not enough. If this was a 5/5, it'd be so much better. At 5/4, it's a D tier. At 5/5, it's like a nice C+, playable card, decent frontline. But at 5/4, for 5 mana, it's just a little bit too expensive and a little too easy to kill. The fact that it dies to a raw Star Shard Bolt is not particularly acceptable. Archimonian Onslaught, give +3 strength and Twin Strike to each friendly Amazon. You're not going to have enough Amazons. You need a full Amazon deck for this to be playable. I mean, trust me, I just lost to it on the ranked ladder the other day, and it definitely works in ranked with an Amazon deck, but in Sealed, it's F. You're just not, like, you need, like, 15 Amazons in your deck. Like, having 4 or 5 Amazons won't be enough to make that worth playing. Like, you need all the Amazons. Oh my god, last 2 cards. We're almost there. Even for me, these tier lists are a lot of talking. It's always a lot, but I'm glad we got this one. Got this one cooked. So, all right. Angry Hippo. 4/6 Wild, Confused, Frontline. Now, that's a stat line. 4/6. 6 health is huge. 4 attack is enough. The Frontline, you're going to kill lots of stuff. Confused is the one downside, but bread and butter, just good stat line creature. I think you can call that a B. Sure, you know, it can get removed by a variety of things, but it's going to get a 1-for-1 of value at a minimum. And this has strong chance of 2-for-1 value, getting in the way of your opponent. Yeah, it's that's like a B+. It's amazing what a difference that is. 5/4 is a D with Frontline. 4/6 with Confused and Frontline is a B. Like, that's how much the health is so much more important than the attack. And those 2 points make all the difference. Lastly, Toast to Peace. Return each creature from the board to its owner's hand. If you're behind on the board, this might buy you some time, but it's got the exact same problem as Exercise, where it's mostly good in decks that synergize heavily with it, and you're not able to build those kinds of decks in Sealed. I would give Toast a weak D, like a D-. Like, it's just not a thing that's going to work in Sealed most of the time. Maybe once in a while, somehow it would help you, and you'd be like, yo, look, it totally worked, but I think that's going to be pretty far and few in between. Okay, so this is our final tier list. That was really not too many cards. That was more reasonable than all the other ones. The 1s through 4s had so many cards. This one was a little bit more reasonable. Yeah. Up at the S tier, we got Veil Warden, Minotaur, Ratify, and Battle Cleric. My 3 favorite 5-drops in the core set, apparently. And then right below it, we got the Stormstress, Disintegration, Orcish Elite, Helios, Battlesworn, Crystal Rain, and Catapult. Pretty solid top end. And then in the Fs, we have the Faithbreaker, sad, you know, F for Faithbreaker. And we got Archimonian, Onslaught, the Synergy. Some of these Ds are kind of fun, though, right? Tainted Treant's fun. Raised Dead can be fun. Atlant Phalanx, maybe. Probably not. Yeah. Honestly, the 5s aren't too hard to gauge. I feel like the 5s are pretty easy. Maybe the one thing I'd do is I'd switch out Helios, Battlesworn, and Mana Thirst Golem. Those feel a little backwards because Golem has the ramp ability. Battlesworn has 1 extra stat to begin with compared to this ability to ramp over and over. Yeah, honestly, maybe we call a quick audible. Swap those around. I feel like, I don't know. I'm feeling a little weird. Like, Battlesworn is so good. It's just more of a B. It's so good, but it's more of a B+ than a fucking A, you know? And then I think this Mana Thirst Golem actually, 1 spell and it's a 6/6, you know? With more ability to keep ramping. So yeah, let's make that 1 adjustment. And then, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this list. I mean, this is a very solid list. And now we've got 1 through 5 all done. Next week, I got to cover the 6s, the 7s, the 8s, and the 9s, which, we'll just do like one for the 6s and one for everything else probably. And then we did it, then we've done the full core set. So that's cool, 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 cool.